I'm 82 years old. I've lived alone for 9 years now, and I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. I'm not lonely. My neighbor Dorothy, she's about my age, maybe a year younger. She lives alone too, has for about the same amount of time. But when I see her at the mailbox, she looks hollow, like she's waiting for something that never comes. She told me last month she doesn't know what to do with herself anymore. The days just blend together, she said. She can't remember if she ate lunch or not. Can't recall what day it is half the time. Same situation, two different outcomes. For a long time, I couldn't understand why. When my wife Helen died, I thought the loneliness would destroy me. Everyone told me it would. Robert, you can't stay in that house by yourself. You'll go crazy. You need people around. That's what my daughter said. My son wanted me to move into one of those places where they organize your whole day for you. Bingo at 2, dinner at 5, movie night on Thursdays. I tried to imagine it. Someone telling me when to eat, when to socialize, when to have fun. And I realized something. That wasn't the answer, at least not for me. But I also knew they might be right about one thing. Living alone could become unbearable. I'd seen it happen. My friend Walter, after his wife passed, he just drifted. Stayed in his robe until noon, forgot to pay bills, stopped shaving. Within a year, he didn't recognize himself anymore. I was terrified of becoming Walter, so I made a decision in those first few months after Helen died. I was going to figure this out. Not by surrounding myself with people, not by filling every hour with activity, but by understanding what actually causes loneliness in the first place. And here's what I discovered. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Loneliness doesn't grow because people leave. It grows when your days lose their shape, when one morning feels exactly like the one before, when you stop having a reason to get out of bed at a certain time, when nothing depends on you showing up. That's when loneliness moves in, not because you're alone, but because you've stopped living a structured life. Let me explain what I mean by that. For 43 years, Helen and I had a rhythm, not because we planned it. It just emerged. I'd wake up at 6:30. She'd already be in the kitchen. Coffee would be ready. We'd sit at the table, not talking much, just being there together. Then I'd read the paper. She'd start on whatever she had planned for the day: lunch at noon, walk at 3, dinner at 6, bed by 10. I never thought about it. The structure was just there, built into our life together. When she died, that structure died with her. And that's when the loneliness started. Not because I missed her, though I did, terribly, but because suddenly there was no reason to be anywhere at any particular time. No reason to make coffee at 7 instead of 9. No reason to eat lunch at noon instead of 2. No reason to go to bed at 10 instead of midnight. The days became shapeless, and shapeless days feel longer than they actually are. You'd think the opposite would be true, but it's not. When there's no structure, time stretches out. An hour feels like 3. A day feels like a week. And that's when you start feeling lonely, even if the house is full of people. I saw this clearly one morning, about 3 months after Helen passed. I woke up and had no idea what time it was. Could have been 7. Could have been 10. I looked at the clock. 9:15. I'd slept in without meaning to. I got up, made coffee whenever I felt like it, ate something around 11 maybe, watched television, looked at the clock again. Still 11. That's when I realized time had stopped moving forward because I had stopped moving forward. I was drifting, just like Walter. That afternoon, I sat down at the kitchen table with a piece of paper, and I wrote down something very simple, a schedule, not for appointments or obligations, just for me. Wake up at 7, coffee by 7:15, breakfast at 8, read until 9, walk at 10. The next morning I followed it, and something happened. The day moved. I could feel it moving. By the time I sat down for lunch at noon, I knew exactly what I'd done that morning. The day had shape. And because it had shape, it didn't feel endless. It felt manageable. That's when I understood. Structure isn't about control. It's about creating landmarks in your day so you always know where you are. Without those landmarks, you get lost. And when you're lost inside your own day, that's loneliness. Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about filling every minute with activity. That's not structure. That's avoidance. What I'm talking about is rhythm. Predictable patterns that tell your body and your mind, this is morning, this is afternoon, this is evening. Without that rhythm, every moment feels the same. And when every moment feels the same, you disappear into the blur. Let me tell you what I do, not because you should copy it exactly, but so you understand what I mean by structure. I wake up at 7 every morning, not because anyone's making me, because I've decided that's when my day begins. I get up, even if I don't feel like it, especially if I don't feel like it. I make my bed. That's the first thing. Sounds small, but it's not. Making your bed tells your brain, we're awake now, the day has started. Then I make coffee. Same mug every time. Dark blue with a chip on the handle. I've had it for 15 years. Could get a new one, but I don't want to. That mug is part of the rhythm. I sit in the same chair by the window. I watch the street wake up. The joggers pass by. The cars leave for work. The newspaper gets delivered. This takes maybe 20 minutes. Some people would call it boring. I call it necessary, because in those 20 minutes, I'm not just drinking coffee. I'm orienting myself to the day. I'm reminding myself that I'm here, that I'm present, that the world is still turning. After coffee, I eat breakfast. 8 o'clock. Doesn't matter if I'm hungry. I eat at 8 because that's the rhythm. Toast, usually, sometimes oatmeal, nothing fancy, but it's at the same time, in the same place, every day. Then I read. 8:30 to 10. Newspaper first, then a book. I'm not reading to learn anything in particular. I'm reading because it's part of the structure. It's a landmark. When I finish reading, I know it's 10 o'clock. Time to move. I take a walk. 10 o'clock, unless it's raining hard. Around the neighborhood, same route most days. I see the same people. We nod. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't. Doesn't matter. The walk isn't about socializing. It's about moving my body and marking the passage of time. By the time I get back, it's 11. The morning is over. I've done something. I know what I've done, and that makes all the difference. Lunch at noon. Afternoon is for projects. Could be working in the garden. Could be fixing something around the house. Could be going through old photos. Doesn't matter what the project is, as long as there is one. Something that requires attention. Something that makes the afternoon distinct from the morning. Dinner at 6, news at 7. By 8:30, I'm winding down. Read a little more, lights out by 10. Every day, the same rhythm, the same landmarks. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds monotonous. Doesn't that get boring? And here's what I've learned. Boredom and loneliness are not the same thing. Boredom is uncomfortable, yes, but it's not painful. Loneliness is painful. And loneliness doesn't come from routine. It comes from shapelessness. When your days have structure, even if that structure is repetitive, you know where you are. You know what you've done and what's coming next. And that knowing creates a kind of companionship with yourself. You're not adrift. You're not waiting for something to happen. You're living a life that has a rhythm, even if you're living it alone. Let me tell you about my neighbor Dorothy again, because her story shows what happens when structure disappears. Dorothy used to have a routine too, back when her husband was alive. She'd get up early, make breakfast, tend to her garden in the morning, have lunch with friends twice a week. Her days had shape, but after he died, she let all of it go. She stopped setting an alarm, stopped eating at regular times, stopped making plans. She told herself she was being flexible, that she didn't need all those rules anymore. She could do whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. But what actually happened is her days dissolved. She'd wake up at different times, skip meals or eat 3 times in 2 hours, stay up until 2 in the morning watching television, then sleep until noon the next day. She thought she was being free, but she was actually becoming unmoored, and that's when the loneliness came, not because she was alone, but because her life had no shape anymore. Without shape, every day felt the same, and when every day feels the same, you start to feel invisible, even to yourself. I tried to talk to her about it once, gently. I said, "Dorothy, do you have a regular time you eat breakfast?" She looked at me like I was speaking another language. "I eat when I'm hungry," she said. And I understood then that she didn't see the connection. She thought structure was restriction. She didn't realize it was the thing that would save her. I see her sometimes now, still at the mailbox, looking lost. And it breaks my heart because I know what she's missing isn't people. It's rhythm. There's science behind this, though I'm not a scientist. But I've read enough to know that our bodies need patterns. They call it circadian rhythm. Your body wants to know when to wake up, when to eat, when to sleep. When you give it those signals consistently, everything works better. Your sleep improves, your mood stabilizes, even your digestion gets better. But it's more than biology. It's psychological. Human beings need to feel like time is passing in a meaningful way. We need to look back at our day and see what we did, even if what we did was small. When you have structure, you can do that. You can say, I woke up at 7, I had my coffee, I took my walk, I worked in the garden. Those are landmarks. And landmarks make you feel real. Without them, the day just happens to you. And when the day just happens to you, you start to feel like you're not really here. That's loneliness. Now, let me be very clear about something. Structure is not the same as isolation. I'm not saying you should never see people. I'm saying structure comes first. Because if your days have shape, you can add people to that shape. But if your days are shapeless, even being around people won't fix the loneliness. I have 3 friends I see regularly: Margaret on Tuesday mornings for coffee, Helen's sister on Thursday afternoons. My neighbor Tom watches football with me on Sundays during the season. These visits are meaningful because they happen within a structured week. They're not desperate attempts to fill emptiness. They're genuine connections that fit into the rhythm of my life. But here's the key. Even if none of those visits happened one week, my days would still have shape. I'd still wake up at 7, still have my coffee, still take my walk, still work on my projects. The structure holds even when I'm alone, and that's what keeps loneliness away. This is what I wish I could make Dorothy understand. You can't rely on other people to give your days structure, because people are unpredictable. They cancel, they move away, they get busy with their own lives. If your entire sense of purpose depends on other people showing up, you're building on sand. But if you build structure first, just for yourself, then you're building on rock. And when people do show up, it's a gift, not a necessity. Let me tell you exactly what I think happens when someone loses their structure. At first, they feel relief. No more obligations, no more having to be anywhere. They sleep in, they eat whenever, they think, finally, I'm free. But after a few weeks, maybe a month, something changes. The freedom starts to feel heavy. They wake up and don't know what to do. They look at the clock and realize hours have passed and they can't remember what they did. They go to bed and can't remember if they ate lunch that day, and that's when the panic sets in, because they realize they're disappearing, not physically, but mentally. Their days are erasing them, one shapeless hour at a time. And here's the cruel part. At that point, they often try to fix it by finding people. They join groups. They go to senior centers. They say yes to every invitation. But it doesn't work, because the problem isn't a lack of people. The problem is a lack of internal structure, and no amount of external activity can replace that. I know this because I almost made that mistake myself. After Helen died, I thought about joining everything: book clubs, volunteer organizations, church committees. I thought staying busy would keep the loneliness away. But I noticed something. On the days when I had activities planned, I felt rushed and anxious. And on the days when nothing was scheduled, I felt empty and lost. That's when I realized I had it backwards. I needed structure first, activities second. So I built my routine, and once the routine was solid, once my days had a reliable shape, then I could add things to it. But the routine came first. Always. Here's what I want you to understand. If you're living alone, or if you're about to start living alone, the most important thing you can do is create structure before the loneliness arrives. Don't wait until you're drifting. Don't wait until you can't remember what day it is. Build the rhythm now. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it shouldn't be. 3 things. That's all you need. A consistent wake-up time, a consistent meal time, a consistent activity that gets you moving. Those 3 things create a skeleton for your day. Everything else can hang on that skeleton, but without it, nothing holds. And here's the beautiful part. Once you have that structure, once your days have rhythm, you stop feeling like you're waiting for something. You stop checking your phone hoping someone called. You stop looking at the clock wondering how you're going to fill the next 6 hours. Because your day is already full, not with busyness, with shape, with meaning, with small predictable moments that tell you you're alive and present. Loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being adrift. And structure is the anchor that keeps you steady. I'm not lonely anymore because I'm not waiting for my life to start. I'm not waiting for someone to call, for someone to visit, for something to happen. I'm living each day according to a rhythm that I created, that I maintain, that reminds me every morning that I'm here, that I matter, that my day has purpose, even if no one else sees it. That's the secret. Not people, not activities, structure, the simple, quiet, predictable rhythm of a day that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If you're living alone right now, or if you're thinking about what life might look like when you're on your own, I want you to try something, just for 1 week. Wake up at the same time every day. Eat 1 meal at the same time every day. Take 1 walk or do 1 activity at the same time every day, 7 days. That's all. And see what happens. See if the loneliness starts to lift. See if your days start to feel more real. See if you start to feel more like yourself. Because that's what structure does. It doesn't just organize your time. It reminds you who you are. And when you know who you are, you're never truly alone. If what I've shared today made sense to you, if you're someone who values independence and wants to live a dignified life on your own terms, I hope you'll stay with this channel, because this is what we talk about here. Not how to avoid being alone, but how to live well while you are. I'll see you in the next one.